Bonjour.
Salut.
All right, so on this episode, it's going to be a little bit different. You'll notice very quickly there's going to be a lot less of faith in this episode.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because I got sick. I said, you should just go explore. I'm just going to rest here. So John was actually having a blast.
I am a giant history nerd, and these next 2 days that we're going to cover, you get to see that in living color. Upon leaving the metro station, I stumbled onto a race that was going on right in front of my destination. Behind the race stood my main destination for the day, Les Invalides and the Army Museum. I am at Les Invalides, where they have Musée de l'Armée. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but it's the Museum of the Army. It covers the French military history from medieval times. Like, we're talking over 1,000 years ago. There's a really nice exhibit on medieval weaponry, medieval armor. You have an exhibit on Louis XIV to Napoleon. So you're seeing, again, the progression of the technology and design from the 17th century, the 1600s, all the way to basically middle to end of the 1800s, the 19th century, ending with the Franco-Prussian War. There is a section on both World Wars. There's a really cool animated sequence talking about the Battle of the Marne. That was the closest the German army, the German Imperial Army, came to Paris. It was a mostly French, but also combined with the British Expeditionary Force, some of the Belgian forces that were still in some kind of capacity, but most of the French, mostly led by Joseph Joffre and Gallieni, where they pushed the Germans back and saved Paris. That led to the stalemate of World War I, where we just had trench warfare for years and years and years and years, and millions died. And yeah, it kind of just follows the story of World War I. And then there's a really, really interesting exhibit, like a whole wing of the museum, just about the French resistance and the movement for the liberation of France in World War II. And there's a really cool, like 4-seat little auditorium that plays testimonials from people who took part in that resistance.
Je voyais des officiers qui étaient restés en arrière, qui les bombes, on a ramassé bien passé, mais on quittera l'armée, on ira cultiver notre jardin. Et c'était des propos qui me heurtaient, qui me blessaient terriblement. Plus que la démarche des Allemands elles-mêmes. C'était ce défaitisme français. Et ça m'a, ça m'a vraiment affligé.
And there's a lot of really interesting, very moving testimonials from people who were there that heard Pétain's speech as he gave up France to the Nazis and joined the resistance to fight back against the German occupation. And then finally, in the Basilica, you see the tomb of Napoleon I, which is just like everything Napoleon. It's huge. It's just immense. And I guess kind of deserving for somebody of his magnitude. In there, there's also some tombs of other very monumental French individuals. Because I'm a World War I nut, I noticed they had the tomb of Marshal Foch in there, which is cool to see. But yeah, the Napoleon tomb was incredible. And this whole museum is well worth the time. If you ever come out to Paris, take a look.
So what did you do after you went to Les Invalides?
After lunch, I had a little bit left to do. And after that, I still had most of my afternoon free to do whatever. And the only thing I planned that day was Les Invalides. So I just decided I'm just going to start walking around aimlessly through Paris and just see what I see.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about Paris is no matter where you look, there's always going to be some kind of symbol or marker of something in history. It's one of the most historical cities I've ever been to.
Yeah, that's true.
Immediately upon leaving, I found large sculptures of prominent historical figures, including Georges Clemenceau, French Prime Minister who oversaw the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Nearby was also a statue of British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, whose legacy definitely left an indelible mark on French history. That was one of my favorite things of that day, was just kind of randomly stumbling onto something I've never experienced before. There was a giant vigil for this man. His name was Ahmad Shah Massoud, and he was a politician and military leader in Afghanistan who led the opposition to the Taliban in the 1990s. Then on September 9th, 2001, only 2 days before 9/11, the Taliban assassinated him. And whenever we were in Paris, that was the 21st anniversary of his assassination. And here's this dumb American wearing a class shirt and like bright green shoes, just kind of like stumbling in, like, oh.
You're definitely walking to something that you did not expect. It was quite an adventure for you, I guess.
My journey then took me to the Place de la Concorde, which has great views, a refreshing mist from the Fontaine de Mar, and one of the two Luxor obelisks. This ancient Egyptian obelisk, covered in hieroglyphs, dates back over 3,000 years to the time of Ramses II. I continued on through the Jardin des Tuileries, a gorgeous Parisian public park that I would love to spend an entire day at. After seeing the Colonne Vendôme, I thought I'd finish my exploring with a quick return to Montmartre, where I had my very first macaron.
So, what was the plan for the next day?
So our initial plan was actually going to be taking 2 days in Normandy. We were going to go to Mont Saint-Michel, kind of island castle town.
Yeah, it almost looks mystical
Hamlet.
to me.
Yeah. I couldn't do 2 more days of that just by myself, especially when I'm not even going to be in Paris. So we decided to just cut it, the Mont Saint-Michel, to another time, just so, you know, if you needed me, I was going to be around. Hello, it is almost 6 in the morning. I'm at Gare Saint-Lazare looking for my train to Bayeux. After a smooth 2.5-hour train ride into Normandy, I found myself in the quiet, beautiful, ancient town of Bayeux. Upon leaving the train station, you immediately felt a historical aura in your surroundings. I'm here in the beautiful ancient town of Bayeux, France, in the middle of Normandy. And I'm gonna go look at the Bayeux Tapestry and its own museum, and then Omaha Beach, and then whatever else I might stumble upon. So, let's go! Though I was tempted to spend all morning wandering aimlessly through Bayeux and its rustic Norman charm, I proceeded to the Museum of the Bayeux Tapestry, which holds one of the most famous pieces of cloth in European history. Okay, well, I just left the Museum of the Bayeux Tapestry. It was really, really awesome. if you're a history nut like me, it's really, really awesome. It's a tapestry depicting the Norman invasion of England by William the Conqueror. Crazy that it's in such good condition after almost 1,000 years. It's just crazy seeing something in your history books as a little kid and then seeing it in person. It's like, wow, it's a very visceral experience. So I guess we'll find something else to do. Oh, look, what's this? With the museum out of the way, I decided to explore the old town. I stopped at a local cafe for an espresso, then perused the local shops before realizing it was lunchtime. At a small brasserie, I had a delicious meal of tripe and ratatouille, paired with a small bottle of Côte du Rhône that was indeed cheaper than water. Whenever I was in Bayeux and having lunch, it started to dawn on me why our partnership, whenever we travel, works so well.
Probably because we're wired differently. I am an architect, I am a planner, so I like to have everything planned ahead. I want to know exactly what's happening. Our visa is sort of a time tracker for us. So I can imagine when you're by yourself and being completely immersed in that history, in the beautiful scenery, and in the experience, you probably forgot time.
Yeah, exactly. I stopped to have lunch and I realized, I don't know how to actually get to Omaha Beach.
Okay.
So I'm like, I looked up online at the bus schedule because there was a bus stop like about 100 meters away from me. And the next bus that was coming in like 20 minutes. And after that, the next bus would be like 3 hours later. It's like, it has to be that bus.
Yeah.
And I had just put my order in. I ran inside, paid the bill, and then I sprinted to the bus stop because
with a full stomach. That's great.
Oh yeah, as they were giving me my bill, I see the bus starting to turn the corner towards the bus stop.
Oh my gosh!
So I had to run in, pay, and then just grab myself and sprint. And I actually had to chase down the bus because it was starting to leave, and I was just waving and screaming. So they finally stopped and let me pay my way on and get on. So it was a very tense moment. I got my food. It was delicious, but I ate it really, really fast. Yeah, all that was in my head is, if faith was with me, this would never have happened. As a child, I became very interested in World War II, and the invasion of Normandy was always a chief subject I was interested in. Like the French resistance exhibits the day before, I was again very emotionally moved at witnessing the heavy price paid in order to resist and overcome the threat of fascism. The museum was expertly curated, with amazing artifacts and an easy-to-navigate layout, with exhibits guiding you through the hour-by-hour and even minute-by-minute critical events behind the execution of the gigantic Operation Overlord. Just seeing these different displays of battle maps, it's so easy to get lost in the mayhem that ensued on June 6, 1944, and the sacrifices that so many gave here. Despite the sobering nature of the memorial, it was truly exquisite. I just left the Omaha Beach D-Day Memorial and National Cemetery, which was really great moving experience. The actual monument and access to Omaha Beach, though, is apparently over 3 kilometers away. And Google Maps, which is not the most reliable GPS, it's saying it's an hour walk. So if the GPS holds true, I'm looking at a 2-hour round trip to get to the monument and back. Hopefully, I can get there and back in time to make the last bus back to Bayeux, which takes me back to Paris. Hopefully, just a regular day, marching through Normandy on the way to Omaha Beach. I reflected on the memorial I visited and where I was going next. But I couldn't escape concern of the ominous return of fascist movements in the US and abroad, and the epic destruction it can lead to when gone unchecked. Alright, I've made it to Omaha Beach, the site of one of the beaches on D-Day. For those unaware, in order to finally open a Western front against the Nazis, the combined Allied forces launched a massive invasion of Normandy at 5 beaches with different code names. Omaha Beach, one of the 2 US beaches in the invasion, saw the most fierce resistance of any of the 5 beaches. It was a sight of terrifying violence and bloodshed, best depicted in Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, Saving Private Ryan. If you ever come to Paris, just take a day and come out here. You're going to learn some history, some really cool monuments, memorials, and honestly, on like a day like today, whenever it's in the mid-80s, oh my goodness, this feels awesome.
So it sounds like a very eventful 2 days for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me about it. How was your solo trip in general? Because this is your first time doing it.
Yeah, it was exciting. I'd never had this kind of experience before. So yeah, and especially going to all these historical places and like scratching that history nerd itch.
Yeah.
Those experiences made me realize it's better to travel with you than by myself.
Well, what can I say?
So after I got back to Bayeux, had this amazing dinner. By the way, the burgers here, oh my God, so much better than the US. I had a great time, but it was time to come back to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a great time because I felt a bit guilty because I got sick and then you wouldn't be able to enjoy yourself as much. But now I'm seeing the footage and hearing you telling the stories and sounds like quite fun experience. So yeah that's all good. But I'm also glad that on that day later I got much better. So I think we were able to feeling safe enough to hang out again the following day.
Luckily, you're pretty much back to normal for the last few days of our trip.
Yeah, that was very speedy recovery, whatever that is. I am really happy about that. So awesome.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Au revoir and see you next time.
Exactly.